Vigil, Ante, and the Vigilante Antics by BelleAmant. Read by Oakshadow 5. Chapter 9. An Odd Encounter. At 28 years old, Shota Aizawa has seen a lot of things in his life, and has done quite a fair amount of things too. As a hero, he's used to taking on a lot of cases, used to hunting down villains and getting criminals locked away. As an underground hero, he's used to doing all of this, and still being unrecognizable to most of the world. He doesn't shine in the spotlight, and he doesn't really want to. He just wants to help people, to catch the villains and vigilantes and other criminals and put them away so no one is hurt. He's not in it for the fame, he's just doing what a hero should, he supposes. He doesn't, therefore, expect the two vigilantes currently chasing down to recognize him, nor does he expect them to be excited about his appearance. But here he is. It started normally. Shota was patrolling Musutafu, traversing by rooftop as he checked for any signs of danger. It was actually a fairly peaceful night, all things considered. He stopped a robbery attempt, helped a kid find the house, simple stuff. The simple stuff mattered, of course. It all mattered. But it was easy, and soon, Shota was just hopping from building to building, with nothing but the stars in the sky for company and the wind in his ears for music. And then he heard a crash, and shouting. The sound of fear and rage mixing together. Shota raced to the source. He got there just in time to see a figure in green landing a hit on a woman with claws for hands, knocking her out immediately.
"Auntie!"
A distorted voice rang out, and a second figure came out of the shadows.
"Rope!"
Shota saw the sharp nod that the second one, Ante it appears, gives, and then Ante was wrapping rope around the woman, carefully tying her claws up so she couldn't cut herself out. As Ante did this, the first spoke again.
You okay, miss?"
The distorted voice seemed to echo, and Shota's eyes searched the scene until he spotted a young woman cowering by a trash bin. I am, thank you, the woman responded, standing slowly.
"Do you mind calling the cops?"
The voice seemed softer somehow, as if the speaker was trying to calm her. Maybe he is.
"Tell them the location and what happened?"
Of course, she promised. Do you two need anything? As thanks, I mean.
"Well, there is one thing,"
the distorted voice said, and Shota narrowed his eyes at the green figure. Of course, she repeated. What is it?
"Don't tell the police what we look like."
I see. She seemed confused, but nodded anyways.
"Thanks. Auntie, you ready?"
The second nodded, stepping away.
"All right. Stay safe, miss."
Shota watched as the two turned around, not towards the entrance but racing to the dead end of the alley. Without hesitating, they both leapt up at the wall, jumping quickly so that they bounced upwards between the two buildings, up and up until they landed on the building. The one right next to Shota, to be specific. Shota could see them much more clearly at this range. The green figure's face was obscured by a mask that covered his eyes and a device over his chin and mouth, and a black beanie covered his head. Shota thinks they're male, at least. They both seem to be, although their features aren't quite as sharp as most males are, and the green one seems a fair amount shorter. Semantics. Ante had hints of purple in his primarily black outfit, mainly in the mask that covered his upper face. He was wearing a device over his own mouth and chin as well, but it's not the same as the one covering the green figure's face. Wait. Ante. Shota's eyes snapped open as he realized who they were. Vigil and Ante, the vigilante duo, who have been running around for 3 years without being caught. Well, Shota thought, there's a first time for everything. And indeed there is, because this is when things changed.
"Holy shit!"
Vigil mutters, the words demonic sounding.
"It's fucking Eraserhead!"
Shota blinks in surprise, and then he blinks again. In the split second, not even, that it took to blink the first time, the vigilante started running away. Shota gives chase, and quickly realizes a few things. To start, they're fast. With how lean the males seem to be, it appears that they both went for speed over pure strength to get them through fights. He can't judge them for that decision, because it's exactly what he does, but goddamn, does it make everything that much more difficult. The next thing he notices is that they're enjoying themselves. Vigil makes jokes as he leaps through the sky. Ante laughs when Shota nearly catches him with his scarf-like weapon. Despite not being able to see their faces, Shota can tell they're smiling. It pisses him off, and he speeds up. When he finally manages to catch Vigil in his capture weapon, he finds out the third and fourth thing.
"Eraserhead caught me,"
the distorted voice whispers, the words crackling. A voice modifier. Hate those things.
The Eraserhead?
Ante snorts, although he seems on guard. He started running, but he's not giving up.
We can freak out over that later.
Ante's voice slips out, and though his voice doesn't sound right, it doesn't have the crackling effects of Vigil's. Third, the hero fans. Shota pulls the scarf closer, watching as Vigil's joy slips away, the vigilante tensing up. Shota activates his quirk, making sure the other can't escape.
You two have been causing a lot of trouble around here.
Shota says as Vigil ends up by his side, still screwing in the weapon. Vigil scoffs.
Causing? We've been stopping trouble.
Illegally?
Semantics?
Vigil says, and Shota glares at him, feeling his eyes strain against the extra effort. Shit, his eyes are drying out. Then he asks,
Hey, if I let you take me in, can I get your autograph?
The sentence is enough to make Shota blink in surprise, and then he hears a ripping sound. Quickly, he activates his quirk once more, locking his eyes on Vigil. But he must be too late, because Vigil is free, a piece of the weapon clutched in his grasp as he jumps backwards, Ante following him. A flash of light fills the air, and then it's gone, but so are they. Fourth, they're really good at disappearing. Shota glares at the spot the vigilante stood mere seconds ago, and then he turns away. He has a detective to speak to. Now Masa Tsukauchi walks into work the next morning, wanting nothing more than to sit down and drink the coffee in his hand. Just 10 minutes of silence, Tsukauchi thinks to himself. 10 minutes, then I get right to work. I just need to wake up. He sits down in his chair, letting himself sink into the minor amount of cushioning that the rolling chair provides. He lets out a sigh, not one of exhaustion, but simply of acceptance and empty air, and then takes a sip of his coffee. All is calm at this moment, allowing Tsukauchi a chance to slip into alertness. There's a knock at the door, and Tsukauchi lets out another sigh, one of resignation. It looks like he won't get those 10 minutes, no matter how much he needs them. Come in, Tsukauchi says, and the door opens. Tired black eyes meet, well, another set of tired black eyes, but the second pair is bloodshot and belongs to a rather unknown underground hero. Unknown, but not to Tsukauchi. Shota Aizawa, barely known as Eraserhead except by his colleagues, stands at the door with a coffee of his own, and lips twitching with something to say. Hello, Aizawa. Tsukauchi greets as the hero walks into the room. Come and take a seat. Thanks, Aizawa says, and his voice is even more tired than Tsukauchi feels. I thought you were a teacher, Tsukauchi says first. Don't you have to be teaching right now? They're on break, Aizawa says. Have been for a few days. True. Tsukauchi nods politely, then asks, I'm assuming you've kept busy on the streets then. And under them, Aizawa says, and it sounds like a joke, but his tone is flat either way. I ran into some vigilantes last night. Oh? Tsukauchi sets down his coffee. Aizawa does the same. Which ones? There's a few running through the streets. Some are new, some have been making the rounds for ages. But Tsukauchi knows that a certain duo shines out among the rest, despite the lack of non-heroic actions, for lack of a better term. Or maybe it's because the duo stays so close to the line that it's just barely crossed at all except when necessary. Aizawa says the name Tsukauchi expected to hear. Vigil and Ante. Were they behind the arrest made last night? The lady with the claws? Aizawa asks in confirmation, and Tsukauchi nods. Yeah, I found them just as Vigil was knocking her out. Ante tied her up, and they got a witness, probably a new victim, to call it in. True. Tsukauchi nods again, pulling out the file. He says, At least we can confirm this was their doing. Thanks, Eraserhead. Is that all? No. True. That surprises Tsukauchi. He blinks, looking at Aizawa once more. What else did you see? Aizawa rubs at his eyes, takes a drink of his coffee. He stares at Tsukauchi for a moment, then asks a question in response. Vigil and Ante, aren't they the duo that no one can remember properly? Tsukauchi nods, flipping to the description sheet. That is correct. The most people can recall that Vigil was mostly green, while Ante wears mostly black with purple. We're pretty sure that one of them, likely Ante, has a sight-reducing quirk. And what about Vigil? Aizawa asks, and his gaze holds something. Tsukauchi doesn't know what that something is, but it's focused. We believe that he may have a minor speed quirk, or perhaps an agility quirk. I don't think that's it. Aizawa says, and then his eyes lock with Tsukauchi's.
Because Vigil got out of my capture weapon and I remember more than colors.
True. Tsukauchi feels as if he just drank a pot of coffee, and he's wide awake with that admission. He grabs a pen without looking, then pulls out a fresh sheet of paper.
Eraserhead, tell me everything you remember.
And he does. A bigger picture forms in Tsukauchi's head. Details get scribbled down onto the paper before him. Black beanie, in a green jumpsuit, shorter than average, rounder features. Probably a male, but might be female. Lean frame, but quick and powerful. Voice modifier. Seems to like heroes, despite being a vigilante. Able to get out of Eraserhead's capture weapon in a single second, toss straight through it. Likely has a strength quirk then. Suddenly, Vigil is more than just his green jumpsuit, and his partner is just as notable. Purple mask with black clothing. Taller than Vigil, but still smaller than average, also had rounded cheeks like Vigil. Lean as well. Voice modifier, but better than Vigil's. Seems to like heroes, but is more amused by Vigil's action. Will wait for Vigil if caught, and then they escape together. Quirk may not be sight-reducing, but rather just sight-related. Seems to have been able to cause a flash of light, unless that was just a flash bomb or other gadget. It isn't all of the answers in the world. It doesn't even confirm the duo's quirks, or who they are. Age is still a mystery, and now gender might be as well. But everything Aizawa says is true, and it does let Tsukauchi know one thing. The vigilante duo can be remembered. He just doesn't know why Aizawa remembers, when nobody else does. Because one thing Aizawa doesn't remember doing? Aizawa never recalled erasing Ante's quirk. He only mentioned Vigil's, noting the split moment it took for the vigilante to escape once Aizawa blinked. So what stopped Ante from affecting him? Tsukauchi doesn't know, but he knows one more thing. Shota Aizawa, underground hero Eraserhead, promised one last thing when he left the office.
I'll do what I can to catch them,
Aizawa said, and it's all Tsukauchi needs in order to know that answers will be found. And maybe the vigilantes will be too. That was chapter 9 of Vigilante and the Vigilante Antics. Aizawa finally entered the fray. I'm so excited about that. And yes, Hitoshi didn't mind control Aizawa, so Aizawa can remember them. But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this chapter, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!